And I'll just kind of dive right into it here. Let's just make sure there's nobody else sitting in the waiting room. No, as of now, we have 7 in, 7. Yep, that looks about right. Great, we'll leave that open. I'm sure there'll be some more joining as usual. But again, guys, welcome to the weekly DaaS sales workshop. Hopefully everybody had themselves a great holiday weekend. I know myself, I took Friday off and picked up my daughter early, and we went down to a party on the lake, and great food, great people, great drink, great fireworks. It was excellent. And I actually took the full 3-day weekend, and I don't think I did any work, and it felt kind of glorious. But now we're back to the real world. Monday was playing hardcore catch up for taking a 3-day weekend, and Tuesday back on schedule here with everything swimming smoothly. So guys, I want to go over a couple quick updates to lead this off. Go over some of the resources that I think are most effective and I give away on these workshops. Open it up for a bit of a Q&A, and that's kind of where we're going to start off. But in terms of some announcements and some updates, and give me 1 minute, let me just bring up the right tab on my screen and share and run through a couple of things here. And the first one, as I'm sharing, I'm going to talk about it. Some of you guys may have already seen the post. I just made it last night in school and then edited a little bit today when I had a little more finalization. But there's going to be some changes to the weekly workshop. So nothing to this one specifically, but I just wanted to bring this post to anybody's attention that hadn't seen it. Number one, Phil is no longer hosting any of the workshops. In the past, he had run our DaaS Q&A as well as our incubator. Phil has gone on to doing some other things, and we had a kind of different vision in the direction of the brand and the way we were taking this. So we found a couple of people that we think are going to be, I'd like to say at minimum, competent replacements, but I think you're going to see some high level coaching on those calls and the replacements there. So Phil's no longer running those workshops. Number 2 on my screen, kind of talks about the Q&A workshop this week, which was yesterday, was canceled while we were in the interim period, but it's already on the calendar and been updated for next week. So if any of you guys had already kind of clicked on and subscribed to that one and were going to it weekly, now that it's been removed and changed to a different time and link, you may have to go back and redo that. But this one will now be 4 p.m. the same day Phil used to host them at on Tuesday. This one will now be 4 p.m. and hosted by one of our team members, Danny Bouchard. So if you guys haven't met him yet, you'll get familiar with him beginning next Tuesday. Just starting today, Rinaldo on our team just started running the new automation and webhook workshop, something that's been asked for on multiple of my workshops, even though mine have nothing to do with that, but just getting client feedback. A lot of the questions and a lot of the confusion really is around webhooks, automation, make.com. So now Rinaldo runs that one. So that was brand new, added to our workshop series, just began today. And then the Thursday workshops will now be run by Naylor, who a lot of you guys on the team have probably worked with Lewis, whether it's been a support issue, updating a card. He does a lot of different things on the team. You guys are going to see Lewis's true brilliance and experience on these calls. A lot of things he doesn't talk about was the successful agency he ran for 6 years behind the scenes before coming aboard, how he had partnered and been clients and been through a couple of my programs for multiple of my companies over the last few years. He and I have been connected since the winter of 2019, when I was working for about a $20 million a year digital consultancy, and I was calling people in my pipeline that had bought at the time our $97 Facebook ads workshop. I had reached out to Louis, and we had built a connection and stayed in touch ever since. Ironically, he never bought from that company, and I think I kind of dissuade him from doing so as I learned more and more and as I was leaving there. But once I started up my own stuff, Lewis has been a colleague, a great friend, and he's been a customer. He's bought multiple of my stuff because he's seen value in it, and it really helped him in his agency and his business. Matter of fact, he used to hire me as a consultant to go in and speak to his team because he noticed a boost in revenue, morale, production, and all those areas after I would kind of go in and do a high level thing. So Lewis has a lot more experience than maybe a lot of you guys may know. And with speaking with him in recent weeks, we both thought it was a good idea for him to work with the clients a little more and not just, one-on-one when they're having a support or a billing issue is kind of where he spends his time behind the scenes in many other areas as well. So those are some of the updates. So again, if you were the one for the incubator workshop, again, just because they've been retitled and a new host and a new link, you may have to go subscribe for that. But the Thursday one, nothing changed other than the host. Same time, same. The only thing that changed again internally was the link and the person hosting. So I don't know what that did for everybody that was pre-subscribed. So I just wanted to start with that. If anyone has any questions on that, I'll come to you and I'll call on people for questions, regarding the workshops, any of that, or any of the other stuff I cover here momentarily, and I'll check the chat. Let me just run through what else I wanted to cover really quick and share with you guys, and then I'll go back and open this up a little more. So let me just minimize that. Again, something I do and I drop on every single weekly workshop here, and I'm going to grab the link right now and go drop it in the chat for all of you guys as I explain this. I do see a couple new people that are either new clients or first time jumping on my call, at least to my knowledge. So some of you guys may not have seen this yet. So again, really quickly, this Google Doc link is going in the chat. And then as I do that, let me walk through and just explain this in a quick 2-minute overview. So this is the resource I put together. As you guys may or may not know, again, if you're new, I'm teaching the DaaS sales workshop because my background and my main area of expertise is more the front end of the business with sales, with marketing, with messaging. I also run another company called the AudienceLab, where I train and place high ticket reps into ideal offers, as well as more established sales teams hire me to come in and revamp or fix their sales process, whether that be the talent, the metrics, the coaching, the scripts they're using. It usually comes down to 4 or 5 areas when I go in to work with any team. But I have a pretty good pulse on the industry, both in the agency space and obviously my understanding of AudienceLab, probably best suited to teach on sales. I've closed over 10 million in high ticket deals on Zoom calls like this since 2019 when I met Lewis, and that's kind of where I got my start here. So that's kind of ironic to go back to that. But what I put together here, guys, is exactly what you need. 8 resources on here, or links. There's more resources within each if needed, but 8 overall things that is kind of everything you need to build out a successful agency sales process. Whether you had a successful agency or an existing agency before coming into DaaS and you're just kind of bolting this on, I would say definitely look through number 1 and 2 first and foremost. And you're probably going to pick up some things that weren't in your sales process that you'll think, damn, that makes sense. Maybe that should have been in there. Oh, I see where that could have bumped my show rate by 15%. And as a business owner in an agency, we all know what a 15% increase in show rate can ultimately mean in the bottom line, month in and month out, and especially when we look at the end of the year, right? So number 1 is just a Google Doc showing you the best sales process that I would recommend and how I built AudienceLab sales team from scratch. So it'll show you the sales process build out, game plan, timeline, expectations, etc. Number 2 is just a tutorial where I go over that doc and elaborate on anything that I might have kept in short definition form for document's sake, but I thought, certain people would ask me questions or want me to elaborate. I did a little tutorial going more in depth. Number 3 is just always showing you the current ads and email and copy and LinkedIn messaging that we are using, AudienceLab, day in and day out to land new data clients. So again, I was saying this last week, but I've gone in recently and updated some of the newer ad campaigns. I go in and do that when we launch new ones and shelve some of ours due to ad fatigue, length, length that they've been running, shitty metrics, whatever the case may be. As I'm swapping them out with effectiveness, I go update them on this document. So they're changing, every couple of months I'm going in and swapping out our creatives but I pretty much always leave about 9 of our ad sets in there in terms of creative. I show you some of the different email copy that we've used for different structure, to a cold list, to a warm market, to book for a webinar. And then I go into some short form messaging that I use both in B2B cold email as well as my LinkedIn outreach, and kind of some examples of what we've done to have success, right? So again, some of the best resources I can give you is just showing you exactly what we do and then modifying it more for your niche, your market, your objective may be a little different, right? AudienceLab sells primarily to agencies, where most DaaS clients are selling more to brands and companies themselves. So it's a little different of a conversation, and we package and we price it different. I run through all that stuff, right? Throughout all of this stuff. So in that sales process build out, number 1 and 2, I recommend a 2-call sales process. Again, what we've seen the most success in our companies is about a 2-call, 5 business day sales cycle. So number 4 on my screen would be your script I would recommend for the first call. And number 5 would be for the second call, your actual sales or demo call. Number 6 is a copy of the pitch deck we give to you guys. Nothing here is branded to AudienceLab. Once you click on this, download, make your own copy, go swap out the first slide with your own branding, company name, image, whatever you want. And then there's just a short little pitch deck to show clients on a sales call how identity resolution would work, why in-market audiences are smart, how we can sync that right to their ads, a half dozen to a dozen different case studies in different niches and industries you guys can utilize as you're building up your own to add to that, right? So the pitch deck I would recommend utilizing in your presentation. Number 7 is just a tutorial where I go a little more in depth about our super pixel pricing, identity resolution, and specifically within the description of that video down below, I give you the link to our pixel calculator where you can kind of, again, just by knowing how many hits they get per month to their website, the average conversion rate of their website, the average order value of their product or service, we can get a quick little guesstimation of how much revenue they're leaving on the table and show them, hey, by not using an identity resolution tool, you're leaving, I mean, anywhere from 40,000 to 2 million I've seen in these things. And this guesstimation is, it's never accurate. I've had over and under, but it's a very close estimation. It's not far off, you know, either way. I'd give it a 15% swing to one side or the other with the number it comes up with. Generally speaking, you can't have a business that blows up after it gets way bigger numbers. You're going to see better results, or they stop running traffic and their you know, their volume drops. Obviously the numbers will drop. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. There's no calculator that's going to be accurate predicting those things. But as terms of a very credible guesstimation, that tool is excellent, guys. And then lastly, maybe in this document, and some people say they have trouble opening these. Very simply, when you hover over this, you got to go down and actually click on the link below it, right? Sometimes people are telling me, hey, I can't open that, or it takes me right back to this document. That means you're not actually just dropping your mouse down and clicking on the link that opens up underneath, just in case anyone struggles with that. But this one here is about 20 of my call recordings. So I've heard some of you guys give me feedback saying, hey, Ray, your call recordings really help me, you know, understand the verbiage and the terminology that I need to be using. You know, I picked up your cadence, or how your calls are very relational. They don't feel like a sales call. You're just having a conversation with people. So get a grasp and a little more familiarity with somebody that's closed a lot of data deals and had some conversations, probably more than you. Pick up something, take away 1 or 2 little things from each call. But I think within this document, there's everything you guys, you know, should need to build out the sales process, and every resource I can give you. And the last thing I'm going to run over super quickly before I dive into the chat and the questions and make it and open this up. Something, again, I've shared in recent weeks on these particular workshops, but I don't know if we've necessarily shared this document in other areas or if it's uploaded in the school resources yet. So I'm going to drop this down in the chat in 1 second. Let me just describe this one first. But really, this is a great little checklist. If you've come into the DaaS program and you're newer, right? This is going to be applicable, especially the top, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. If you've been here a little bit and you're not seeing the success, maybe go back and see, did I do all these things? Do I need to rehash these, or did I do them? And did I actually maybe not follow through on, you know, kind of what we agreed upon, right? But non-negotiables for every successful DaaS client within the first 30 to 60 days in the program, they've done these first numbers, you know, 1 through 7 on my screen here that I'm hovering over. Very, very well. And then they've went and implemented and executed on all of those, right? So we have the quick start guide, which just gives you access and an overview to everything. If for some reason you're not in school, or you don't know how to attend workshops or whatever, that's just an overall start guide that has the basic resources to get into everything else if you hadn't yet. 2, you should be booking your onboarding call if you're brand new and getting onboarded into the platform, and make sure your account access is all set up and you have understanding. You should be in the private client school community, which this workshop runs live. So everybody on this call, I think that should be a gimme. You should go through the THO and MVP videos and then book that one-on-one call with me. I know quite a few on the call have already done that. There's some new faces and some people that might have just enrolled this week and not even got there quite yet. Then, you know, a big difference is, I mean, number 5, I'm not going to skip over that one because I'll just be thorough, but also go through the after call resource email that I send you, because it really has a blueprint and all the resources you need to go through and execute on everything we've done through the call. I've had a few of you guys that have just missed it, or we've done the call and then I'm like, hey, John, I'm sending over this email. And then you hit me up a month later. Hey, Ray, where's this resource? I'm like, dude, it was in the email I sent you immediately after our call a month ago. And then you'll go be, oh yeah, it was there, right? So just make sure you're going through, because sometimes missing one little thing could be a deal breaker and you don't really realize you're missing it. And you're wondering like where the missing piece is for a month. Right. And we don't want that to happen. It shouldn't happen, but anything can happen. And I've seen it happen. So, you know, after an important call with one of the leaders on our team or one of the coaches or co-owners, maybe like myself, and we send you something that's important, just make sure you go through and actually access it and implement it, right? Number 6 is really the big difference maker. It's the big difference maker between the people that get results in the first 30 to 60 days in DaaS, and more importantly, I would say keep those results and keep growing them in month 2 and beyond. And that's getting proficient with audience building, not just competent, not just I logged into the platform yesterday and I went and played around and built my first audience. That's probably competent and kind of a half-ass audience, where we want to be proficient and we want to make sure the audience we're building is truly dialed into the parameters we're looking for that ideal audience, whether it's intent keywords, whether it's parameters like location, revenue, credit score, right? We need to have a good understanding. And this has always been important for me when I'm doing, my calls, whether it's in maybe the pre-enroll, but usually after enrolling and more in onboarding a client, getting a perfect understanding of their ideal buyer. What locational restrictions? Are they nationwide? Are they state restricted? Are they zip code restricted? Are they in more affluent neighborhoods? Are they in more, wealthy gated neighborhood? Like, where's their ideal audience? And just defining that, the more we define that, the more we can understand how in AudienceLab to get all those things to populate. So it might get us wider audiences in some cases. I always go for quality over quantity. What we really want with our lists is we want good data of people that are quality pipeline prospects, not people. And in some cases, I'm not saying it's not bad to get top of funnel attention and nurture people and educate them. That's certainly the case in some brands. That's not what I'm saying. But some people are building audiences and embedding them into campaigns that aren't 100% aligned with that ideal client. And then they're wondering why the data or why the campaigns aren't performing well. Sometimes it comes back to us as audience builders and how we did it. Right? Obviously, and you guys are going to hear more and more, and you've probably already been seeing the new white label option coming out and available to you guys now, where you can just build your own AudienceLab dashboard, put your own brand or image on it so it doesn't say AudienceLab, white label the whole platform, and then build separate teams in there for all your accounts where they can actually go in and build their own audiences. As you guys progress to that, some of you guys have, some of you guys will. It gets more and more hands off with the audience building. But at that point, you have to give them the education on how to do it right. Obviously, if they go in and build audiences that aren't performing, they're not going to stay a client very long. So it becomes more hands off, but you still need the understanding so you can pass that down. I want to make my agency as hands off as possible in terms of fulfillment. And if I don't have to build my own list and my clients can go in and access their own, and they have the acumen and the wherewithal, just give it to one team member, one project manager, probably in the media buying department or something like that, depending on who you're working with, and get them proficient at it. And then it replaces yourself. But that's the big difference, right? People that are just competent and kind of building half-ass lists and wondering why aren't my clients getting great results, or people aren't happy with the data. That a lot of times comes back to how good we did building the list. I'm not going to say always, and we all know, depending on if we're just giving the data to client and letting them do the back end, we all know some of them drop the ball on how they're marketing, on not showing up or not closing sales calls. So there's a lot of factors that come into this, but the more we can take accountability for and the more we can take out of their hands, probably the better, right? And we'll dive into that a bit more. So get proficient at audience building. Best way to do that is attend office hours workshops early on, where they cover a lot of the audience building side of things, as a lot of the inner platform tech side and understanding the features, and utilize the school tutorials, specifically in getting started with AudienceLab. When you go into school, you go into classroom at the top, you click getting started with AudienceLab. There's 3 modules and then multiple sub-modules in there called building audiences, building custom audiences, and testing audiences. Those 3 specifically, you guys should be getting more and more familiar with. Not just watch it once so you kind of understand it. Watch it 2, 3, 4 times so you can go explain it back to somebody and you're proficient at it. So those are just some of the tips. And then again, below there's some additional bonus featured and recommended tutorials and resources that I've seen the most successful people use. Some of those we've already went over some on a different document. I'm not going to go through all of that, but definitely 1 through 7, right before number 8, bold, required for success. Just make sure you've done all that stuff, guys. I think it's really a big difference maker. And let me go drop this link right down in the chat for you guys as well. And then I'm going to go back in and stop screen share and open this up. Oops, 1 second. Open this up for a bit of a Q&A and check the questions. Oh, I did something to delete it. Let me just recopy that link for you guys. There we go. Okay, drop that in there. So if you guys have any questions and you didn't already type them in the chat, I'm going to start with the chat real quick. But if you have any and you didn't type them in the chat, just go put a 1 in the chat if you want me to call on you, or just use the hand raise emoji on Zoom if you know how to do that. And I'll call on you. I'm just going to read what's in there really quick. How about the Q&A on Tuesday from Phil? So yeah, I covered that and that was in the post, but the Tuesday Q&A from Phil will now be run by Danny and it's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern instead of, I believe Phil was running it at 12 p.m. Eastern. So that's the change on the Q&A. Run by a different guy and at a different time of day. Same overall gist and same date, but just different time of day. I couldn't get on the Zoom this morning for whatever reason. So I saw a couple messages about that, and then I confirmed with Rinaldo, and he showed me the recording, so he was running it. And so thank you for the feedback. I don't know if we fully troubleshooted that because it just happened today. So, and it was just that one, correct, Eric? Just so I'm not mistaken. It was just the this morning one. You're not having trouble with other workshops? Oh, sorry. Maybe you typed it down at the bottom. Yeah, just that one. Okay, cool. Let me go through and troubleshoot the automation workshop flow and see what happened. Because some people got on, but I did see that in school, like 3 or 4 people asking if it happened, and somebody said no, and I'm like, it did happen. Like I saw it. Cool. So yeah, hey, next comment was from, oh no, I didn't scroll down. Yeah, Eric. So next comment was from Ro, who I was actually just going to introduce a little bit as well. I was saying earlier, I see some new faces in Ro. I'm not sure if you've been on any of my workshops. Cool to see you here. This is definitely your first time here as a team member. Some of you guys may not know Ro. He's going to be on the support team, really helping out. So if you guys have worked with any of our support team, Andrew, Jaden, Rinaldo, Lewis, Ro is working with those guys and it's going to be helping in kind of all capacities at first, generally, until we kind of assign him his own department or what he's going to lead. Like, and for instance, Jaden is our audience building kind of expert, and anybody that really needs help with that and dialing that in, I usually send to him. If you really have help with pixel and pixel questions, or you want to see the back end or just any inner workings of it, Andrew's our best pixel guy and most educated. Rinaldo's our best guy internally with automations and understanding make.com. So each kind of guy in support also gravitates to kind of their own skill set or feature lead, maybe, for better lack of a better phrase. But Ro is just going through, riding on with the guys, getting more familiar with the platform, and has been nothing short of phenomenal as a team member since we onboarded you. So happy to have you here, Ro. If you want to unmute and just give a quick little intro, feel free to do so. And if you're not able to, or you're in a place where you can't unmute, I'll just carry on. No big deal. Great. I know sometimes I put people on the spot and I don't know if they have noise in the background or what's going on. As Ro mentioned, newest team member, if you mean to make that, sorry about that, Rinaldo had a glitch. Didn't show him anyone. So, okay, so maybe it was a one-time glitch. Either way, I'm going to go through and troubleshoot it internally. We have a guy that just goes through and troubleshoots all of our workshops, so I'll make sure there's nothing else in there. First one of a new series, something's bound to go wrong, I guess, right? I have Jeremy Miner as NEP program to share with retail sales resource. Yeah, I mean that's a great resource, and I'm quite familiar with it. I'm familiar with quite a lot of the other sales trainers in the marketplace. I've worked with some, I've collaborated with some, we've co-hosted certain workshops. Jeremy's one of them. Who else? Cole, I've worked with on some stuff. And yeah, and I've seen a lot of different stuff. I think, and again, any additional sales resources or training that are applicable and that you find value in, definitely use. But I think I've kind of streamlined all the stuff down that I see working best out of, taking my stuff and everybody else's stuff. That's kind of what I merged into that first document. But no, great point. Anybody that can take up and will get some value from that. Thanks for sharing there. That's great, Eduardo. William, will the white label be available for incubator clients? I've had pretty good reception. Folks about white label is only applicable and will only be in DaaS packages. So yes, that's a good question, but no, it's not available for incubator. Again, I think the goal in incubator, and William, I think you were the one that had said something in the post earlier, like you loved Phil's workshops, and that's great. He's certainly great at certain stuff. But I want to make sure the incubator workshop is doing a little better going forward. Not saying it was horrible. And what Lewis is going to be focusing on is really how to make sure that you're making 3 or 4x your incubator investment minimum, so you can get into the DaaS packages where you can then, 3, 4, 5x that amount and keep growing it, and then you have access to more and more features. And that's really the goal for almost every incubator client when they come in, that I speak to at least, is, hey, most of them either started with Incubator for one of two reasons. I don't have that much of a budget, and I'm kind of, bootstrapping my agency, and I just want to get a deal or two before I upgrade to DaaS. Or I want to test the data out for myself and one client, and I really just want a couple lists the first month, and then I'm going to make a decision from there. Both reasons are totally valid, but usually they want to upgrade into another plan, and the only thing stopping them is, for whatever reason, not getting a client, not making revenue, and they're seeing it as an expense and not an investment. I totally get that. I try to gear all my workshops to giving you guys the best resources to only make any future upgrades out of profit and not out of pocket. So even when you come into DaaS, whatever plan, again, I've gone over this quite a few times in terms of acquisition for yourselves as DaaS agencies. And I think if you have the budget and the vision right off the bat, going into paid ads is probably the easiest way to start. But I know a lot of the clients don't come in with that acumen, that budget, or that vision. I would always recommend starting organically. Like about 80% of my successful DaaS agencies have got their first couple of clients organically through cold email and LinkedIn outreach, through some of the methods that I've showed you and shared with you on these trainings and other tutorials. And then again, start your paid ads out of profit rather than out of pocket. But if you do, again, have the mindset, the budget, and the vision to come in and start running ads, it probably is a quicker time frame before you land your first client or before you become more and more profitable. Certainly, I think running paid ads really just puts a little more speed and a little more consistency on anything we can do organically. But it can be done both ways, and it can be done just fine in the first 30 to 60 days organically, where you're easily making a return on your investment, you're profitable, and then at that point, if you want to upgrade into DaaS or consider the white label upgrade or anything, at least you're doing it out of profit rather than out of pocket. That's how I always try to guide people. Now, some people just want to make the investment and jump right in. There's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of, I'm more that guy too. I've done that in the past, but sometimes I've done that and then I wasn't happy about it a few months later. I was like, man, I should have just kind of dipped my toe in the water. So I always recommend people do, what's in their best interest, but I always give them the option of more where I would be coming from in terms of like, yeah, I want to see it work and make sure I get a return on my investment before I upgrade to the next plan. So I think I'm just better at explaining what we can do with the data to people that understand marketing. Yeah, that's a big part of it. It's a good point, and maybe I'll touch on that a little more as I carry on. I see a couple of hand raised and a couple more questions here. So can we have the recording, please? Which recording specifically, Georgetta? I've been talking about so many different things. Yeah, just specify which recording, and I can make sure you get that. I think you're talking about this morning's automation workshop, if I'm not mistaken, but I know we were talking about a few things. Great stuff. Sorry, I'm getting pulled into another meeting. Great. Working good there. Yeah, we'll talk about that stuff a little. Okay, cool. I will get recording. I will make sure I get that, and I'll DM it to you, but also have Ray, who ran it, go post it in school so everybody can have it. Okay, I'll try to DM it to whoever asked, but also make sure Ray posts it in school because he'll have the master link to it since it was on his Zoom. Cool. Yeah, and I'll dive in a little more to what you were saying, William, if we have a minute. I'm sure we probably will to talk about that. Let me start with, I saw a couple different hands raised. Mark's Stephen. Stefan. Okay, I got it wrong no matter what.
Brand news, got on yesterday, and my partner Masood is also on this call. I was in the middle of a demo last night. Man, I was so close, but the site broke down. So I have a technical call on this later to figure that out. That was Murphy's Law for sure.
Go figure.
But they asked me some questions that, of course, I didn't, I knew enough to be dangerous, but I didn't know precisely. And some of those questions, and I'm going to share it on the screen here. I'm sure you get this a lot. Why Super Pixel beats the Facebook Pixel. I couldn't find that anywhere, so I made up a white paper really quick, one that's super technical because they wanted to forward this to some marketing companies, and then one that's for non-technical people. And then I made another document really kind of explaining the intent scoring, right, and how they come about that, and that's kind of more technical, obviously. But I was looking through everything and I was trying to find number one, I don't even know if this is correct, right? So I haven't sent it to anyone. But like number one, do you have stuff like this that like things that we can get to clients? And number two, if we create something like this, where do we get it sanity checked?
Um, I mean, yeah, probably kind of like you're doing here. I would send it to myself or another, team leader, depending on what department we're talking about, and we can kind of troubleshoot through it and say, hey, that's not accurate, or I wouldn't say that because of this, if you'd like 100%. Now, do I have anything like on how our pixel outperforms or what's different than the Facebook pixel on a document broken down like this? Probably not. I
Yeah.
don't sell much off documents or proposals personally. If
Mhm.
you're kind of giving away proposals and documents to do the heavy lifting, you probably will have to create that stuff. I have a tutorial specifically on that, and I'm gonna happily address it for you right now.
Okay, cool.
Um,
Because I see bits and pieces in a lot of videos, but I never saw like this
Yeah,
is
no, it's a great question. Especially if you're newer, you haven't heard me go
yeah.
over it before. It's something, and again, I don't, especially newer people. It's something I have on my YouTube channel, and I post a lot of the
Mhm.
little 2-3 minute clips where people ask these questions. I'll take it out, especially if it's a question like this that gets asked every couple of months by a new person. I go post it on YouTube, so it's great to just send people that sometimes. But on a workshop like this, I'm happy to go into it, especially for anybody that's new. So I always say there's two main differences between the Facebook Pixel and the AudienceLab Pixel, and they basically have different objectives.
Yeah.
So a Facebook pixel is not going to resolve the identity of everybody that visits your website or landing page outside of Facebook.
Mhm.
So that's number one. Our pixel is for identity resolution of website visitors. Facebook is their pixel is resolving people that are visiting ad campaigns, which is a little different. So number one, they have a totally different objective. And do they work good in combination with one another? Heck yeah, they do actually. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is Facebook's pixel, although they have a huge database, it's actually not as robust as AudienceLab. Basically, Facebook just has the data of anybody that is actively using Facebook regularly and actively updating data. Meaning, is there a 50-year-old guy on Facebook that logs in once a month that's never updated his email or his SMS number in 10 years? That's the data you're getting from Facebook. In AudienceLab Supergraph, that data is updated and crossed through Google, Facebook, and every other major search engine. So we have the most up-to-date data, and we also have any user outside of Facebook. So you can only get users within Facebook, and their data is only accurate for people that are actively updating their data. So those are some of the main differences.
Okay, cool. I mean, that's kind of what this said. This is like they're different purposes, and if you actually want the contact details of the person, Facebook's not going to give that to you. And so the other question, is there a place, and you kind of alluded to this, that there isn't something cohesive, but is there a place where like frequent questions of clients or objections or whatever, where, because I'm starting to talk to people and I just kind of want to know what I'm talking about a little bit more so I can like already know what their objections are, or not objections, because it wasn't an objection he asked. It was just a question, right?
No, I mean that's probably smart. That's probably smart. So you just came in how recently, Mark? I'm not sure.
Yesterday.
Okay, cool. So what
But to
program did
be
you come
fair,
into?
I've been evaluating you guys since March, and I've been on a ton of calls. Like I've been waiting to pull the trigger. So
Great, great. And what do you remember what program or tier you came in under?
I'm under the DaaS Lite.
That's like, okay, cool. So if you haven't already, you'll be getting onboarded into the platform very, very soon. It sounds
Already
like you
did.
might have already done that.
Mhm.
Cool. They should have sent you resources to then book a call on my calendar with some stuff after that call. Please check your email. A lot of people don't see it right off the bat because it sends through our GHL system, and sometimes it goes into a spam folder, which shouldn't happen, even though we've already contacted you.
Check.
Or check with your onboarding guy. Just make sure after this, you should be booking a one-on-one call with me where we're going to go into that a lot more specific for you, the verbiage, all that stuff. But yeah, happy to cover some of that right now. So in terms of like frequently asked questions, number one, there's a spreadsheet that I covered with the top 7 things that
Yeah, I
people
saw
should
that.
start with a checklist. Number one on there has an FAQ section inside of that grid. Now, I believe you're already in the school community if you're on this call,
Yep.
correct?
Mhm.
So within school, in the classroom, under the classroom tab, as you can see here, there's a user Q&A type of thing here as well that we just started up.
Okay.
To be honest, I haven't even been in there that much. I'm not sure how much is in there, but there's a user Q&A. We're always adding to it. We just want it to be interactive. So the questions that we already have our base Q&A that we know we've been hearing for the last 6 months or a year, but anything that we hear frequently, we're adding to that as well. So yeah, access to Q&A in here. And then within this document, this top resource, oops, I was in a different tab. within this document, under the guide.audiencelab.io, the quick start guide, there's a basic Q&A section in there as well.
Okay.
So that's where you can start, but I think I'll address a lot more of that stuff personally on, you know, on our one-on-one call together as soon as you get a chance to book
Yeah,
that.
look for it now. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank
Great. No, great questions. Eduardo, go ahead. You had your hand raised there for a while, patiently.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the call. First of all, my question is, you've offered recordings, which is super nice from you. Now, I guess we were all into the unknown for the first time that we're going to sell a pixel, or we're going to sell an audience, or we're going to sell a list building process. Would it be possible to get recordings from you selling those?
No, it's not possible to get me selling those because I don't sell those.
Okay.
I sell DaaS packages, Incubator packages. I sell what you guys buy. We sell it a little differently. Now, I sold it like that 4 years ago when we first launched. We launched to brands and companies, and I was selling individual pixels and audiences. But personally, for 3 years, we've had the agency business model where we've been selling in packages. So we sell it differently than you. It's impossible for me to say, yeah, I sell it the same way as you guys when I don't.
And is there any recordings you could think of, like, because it would be great to have like all the Q&As from the pixels, right? Like everything that people ask and all the objection overcoming and all that, for example.
I guess. I mean, I could see value in it. I mean, I think the best way to do it, how many conversations have you had trying to sell a pixel so far, Eduardo?
Well, only one. So of course, you know, it only gets better.
Let's just go with that. Hold on a minute. Let's finish the exercise. So you've had one. What questions or what were the main concerns on that call?
How would it be different from our B2B and the others?
From our B2B and the others. So, okay. And how did you address it?
Well, I put it in very broad terms. So I said, listen, first of all, it's deterministic versus the other one, which I don't fully understand. I get it 80%. Like it's the person and not like the device which can be used by other people and so on. So it's more accurate, let's say. And then I said, it's also cheaper for a higher volume of resolutions, and it can be more pricey when you have fewer resolutions. Because for someone who has 100 visitors per month, this is going to be more pricey. That's the fact.
Gotcha. And that's not a bad way to answer. If they had said that to me, hey, Ray, how's it different from, you know, Airbnb's pixel? I'd be happy to explain that, Eduardo. What results have you gotten from that pixel so far? Do you know what your match rates are and how much you've actually monetized? So how long have you been using it? What are the better results? So I want to hear what they tell me first before I'm going to tell them what's different. But I'm 99% sure, almost across any data provider with a super pixel, that our data is going to have higher accuracy and almost a lower cost per fire. So I think you were very good with addressing those, but I would never dive into those without asking them. If they're asking me comparisons with a specific brand and a specific company, what have you already seen for results? What did you like about that pixel? What didn't you like about it? And then I'm going to highlight exactly what they told me they didn't like about that one. I'm going to highlight the likability factor on mine. So when I get those objections, mine's always one question first to get to the root of it, and then I can give a better rebuttal to that.
And that's very good. Yeah, thank you. I also mentioned like all the data that comes within the pixel, and not like 50% of emails or phone numbers which are broken, but also the credit score, location, revenue, etc., which you can customize, because if you're an investment fund and you want to speak with people, you know, someone pops in that makes 10 million per year, you might want to prioritize that over me, for example.
And that might be where my conversation would eventually get, but for me, that's kind of in the weeds stuff. It has to come all the way down to that. And if it does, hey, so how many parameters are you able to extrapolate with that pixel? Oh, they just give you name, email, phone number. What if I could get you this, and this? Which one is more valuable? So if it came down to that, yeah, but I'm not going to actually bring that up. That's going to confuse them more. First, I'm going to compare apples to apples and results. What have you seen? What did you like about it? What didn't you like? Then let me show you what's different about mine. I probably don't even have to go into that if I've done that right. You know what I'm saying? So I try to always stay away from as much back-end technical jargon as I can until they bring it up. I'm happy to address it, but it usually just brings up more distractions by going into that stuff.
Okay, and then just a recommendation.
Your points are right, though.
Yeah, thank you. And one recommendation, I was not in the intro call from my company, so I don't know how that went, but I would say if you had the intro email generic and you could have a general question and answer Q&A from everyone, what did they ask you in their intro calls, and have that as a document, if you could send that to people before they get on the call, it might make your life easier, right? Because I think when people come in the first day, you're probably answering 70% of the questions more or less the same. And if you had all that into the document, say, hey, these are all the questions people had a look at before the call, I think that will make your life easier. but that's just a recommendation.
My life easier. See, I think you might be talking about certain DaaS agencies. My life's pretty easy because most of my prospects come in educated because we disqualify people that either don't spend X amount in revenue or they don't watch the educational resources. They actually get canceled off my team's calendar. So internally, we have a process for that. Do all of you guys? I'm not sure. That might be a good
maybe
point.
for us, yeah.
I will literally disqualify people, and it's up to you guys, and we give you all the templates and all the scripts and everything, but you guys need to create some education to make sure people are watching it before you get on a call. I agree with you. So yeah, for what you're asking for in terms of general Pixel Q&A, I think we already have a document on that. Let me check. But if you think that would be helpful for you to make a resource, which I think is what you're asking here, that makes total sense. Hey, these are the 10 most questions. Let me go make my own video to send them my prospects combating these right before they get on the call. So yeah, I think we have that, and otherwise I will go create it if we don't have it.
And the same with the data, because there's one thing which is knowing, and the other one like having assimilate everything, like how you know your name, right? And I'm not at the point where I'm not one of you guys that have been there from the beginning and know all the ins and outs. So I think also confidence in what you're selling helps a lot. So
there's almost two different ways to explain that, and I just want to make sure you're clear. Do you want something with more Q&A about the data itself or the actual audiences lists? Because the data is like a whole thing. Everything falls under the data, right? The pixel falls under the data, the list. I think you're talking about specifically to the pixel and specifically to the in-market lists and audiences, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm clear so I can create the proper thing. Yeah, I mean I'm pretty sure we already have that somewhere. We might just not have it in a document where you guys have easy access. So I'll double check that and I'll update it with anything that I may think may need some changes or tweaks. But yeah, I definitely know the basic questions. But usually, I mean, the best pixel opportunity, and I've even been creating some videos about it this week, are really just reaching out to people that don't even know that they have that lost revenue on the table. Hey, Eduardo, what if we could partner on 20% of the revenue you don't even know you have yet? If I could genuinely make you an extra 10K per month.
It's basically a done with, it's more like a done with you package, but we're giving them one.
I'm not sure, did he just, did you mute and then unmute? I'm sorry, I missed something. I was in the middle of saying, I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. Jeffrey, did you mute and then unmute? So.
Oops, no, sorry. I think I was on a phone call. I must have got.
Okay.
Well, yeah, so it kind of made sense.
Okay. I'll go back to it. Perfect. So I'm sorry, now I got sidetracked. I'm sorry, do you remember what the last thing I was saying?
Yeah, so how about we get 20% of the revenue that you don't get this opportunity for Pixel?
Yeah. So I'll say to a business owner, hey, I visited your website and it looks like you have a thriving business and you're getting about this much traffic, right? What if I could show you how to turn those bounce visitors into revenue on the table? So again, I have a video where I broke this down and I took the time to write, a script. I'm kind of going off the cuff here. But I just basically say to people, I can usually find 10 to 30 grand for business owners with revenue left on the table using my identity resolution technology. If I could generate that revenue into your business, would you be happy to partner on 20 or 25% of that? Whatever number. Start higher, start with 25%. And you can always negotiate down a little. But that's been my best outreach to start partnerships. I just say, hey man, I see you got traffic. I see you got a website. Looks like it's only converting at X amount, or you got this many bounce visitors. I'd love to turn that into revenue for your business. Could you use an extra 20 grand in revenue? Yeah, I could. So, would you pay me 20% of that if I could generate it for you?
And then do you do them like a funnel? Like, okay, how many sales are you making from how many calls? And then kind of like do a funnel. This many resolve people, this much percentage of sales, this much value per sale equals 100K. I make 25K.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I'll use the revenue generator calculator to get a rough estimate. But again, to answer your question of like what type of funnel they go in, that's really contingent on what business I'm working with, right? If it's an e-com store, it's just a retarget into a shopping cart, right? And many times, it could be a quality book call on their calendar. It could be a demo for a roofing person, whatever that metric is. Yeah, I mean, we kind of gauge off that, but it's hard to say very generally because those are all different funnels.
Okay, and the last question on this regard, you mentioned it. You said something like, "Hey, it looks like you have this much bounce rate." Do you check that yourself, like in SEMrush, or do you do anything different before you reach out?
See, what about bounce rate? Say again.
Yeah, you mentioned like, okay, it looks like you have this much traffic and this many bounce rates. I would like to get some of those that leave the page back to you. Like, do you check those data before, or do you ask
Well,
them?
I'm going to confirm with the business owner, but I know industry standards. So I can use Google Analytics to find out the average website visitors very easily on any website that I just have the domain for. I'm not sorry, not the domain, the main web address. I don't need the full domain. I don't need domain access. I can check on Google Analytics and figure out web visitors for almost any website. And I know industry standard, and I can just ChatGPT search, hey, what's the average conversion rate on a roofing website, on an e-com website at this price point? And then when I reach out to them, hey, the average e-com website has a bounce rate of 93%, whatever, right? That means you have, based on Google Analytics, you have about 94,000 bounce visitors per month. What if I could get you their name, email, phone number? We could retarget them in a simple ad and generate an extra 40K in revenue onto your books. Would you give me 20% back if I could do that for you? Fuck yeah, I didn't even have that money. And the beauty of it is two things, right? Number one, they didn't even know that that revenue was there. And if we can create a new revenue stream from nothing, they're happy to partner and give some away. Number two, there's no more ad spend included. We're just talking about existing traffic. Then once they start to ramp up those profits, it makes sense to take a certain percent and start to raise their budget and drive in more scalability to the business. So it kind of feeds twofold if you think about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Ray. That was awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem. No problem. So Mark, I'm going to double check with my rep immediately after this call and just make sure that we resend you the information. Thank you for verifying. I got to stay with my team because we can't miss these emails. It's very important that everybody gets on that call with me. That's actually been the number one factor when we looked at the end of year in 2024, and it's still been the same this year, but we had a full year of data. Hold on, let me just write down. That was the number one defining factor of our DaaS clients that really had little to no success and canceled without ever making money, is they totally skipped the process of booking with me. Not that they didn't have the link. I always, maybe we forget at one point, but I make sure everybody gets it. But there's 30 to 40% of people that pay for this DaaS program that just never book in that call for whatever reason. Those are the highest number of cancels. And the first question we ask is, did you ever have your one-on-one fastest path to cash kickoff call, or THO call? I call it a couple different things. Did you ever have that with Ray? No, we didn't. Go figure. Like, we just see it, and almost all the canceled people, all the ones that are having success. Yeah, I attended that call. Yeah, I followed what he said.
Well,
So
I don't
it's
want to
very
be
important in my
statistics.
Yeah, exactly. And I only make data-driven decisions. I can say whatever I want about my call and have an ego, but what the numbers say, whether I like myself or not. You know what I mean?
Hey, Ray, sorry about the blooper earlier, but
Go ahead, man.
do you have a contract for just DaaS, like custom audience retainer template or anything that you guys can share?
For just individual. So I don't think we have that. What we do have, and are you familiar with what we do have and where it's at?
I forget.
All right, so let me go over it real quick because I get this question a lot too, and another thing I have on my YouTube channel. But really, really quickly, what we found, and you can alter or customize these to kind of any specific plan or package you're selling. But if you go within our paid school community, bring up the right browser, because as any entrepreneur, I'm operating on a multiple. When you go into here, and then again, let's just say we're at the main screen just for everybody. I just logged in. I would go to the classroom tab at the top. And then once I'm in classroom, you just scroll down right here to contracts and agreements. And both of our main ones are in there. So we have two templates in there that you can download and a little tutorial for each. One is called an MSA agreement, a master service agreement, and is usually for larger scopes of work. Then we have the SOW agreement, which is called our statement of work agreement, that you can kind of make custom to any little thing. So it sounds like you'd be looking more for the SOW template, which is right there in the school community for you.
Perfect. Awesome. Found it. Didn't realize I was right under my nose.
It is for a lot of people. I think the problem is on our end. We still need to streamline this. There's just too much stuff. There's a lot of information, a lot of tutorials, a lot of tabs, a lot of workshops, and a lot of confusion. And that's another thing we do on that one-on-one call. I get with each of you guys individually. I'm like, hey, what do you want to accomplish in the next 15 to 30 days? Tell me, and then I'm going to tell you the blueprint, if I'm in your shoes, exactly what I'm doing, what tutorials I'm watching, what workshops I'm attending, where I'm spending my time on my sales calls, how I'm pricing this. I mapped that all out, so it's just clear and concise for any of our DaaS clients. I know some of you guys are an Incubator. Incubator clients don't quite have access to that because you don't have the full reseller capabilities. With only 2 lists per month or whatever, you're going to max out with 1 or 2 clients. There's a reason you don't have access to all the same resources. You don't have the actual data to go back it up and implement on everything. So you guys all have access to these workshops, and I'm happy to share resources and all that, just the same. But But yeah, those calls are for our clients that actually have enough data to go out and start landing multiple clients. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, appreciate this. This saves me a lot of time. So
Cool. Does
Hey-
anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
Hey,
Jake.
Raymond, quick question for you.
Go, please. Yep.
So I have a question about the data itself.
Okay.
So we are, so we have a digital marketing agency, but we also have a fence installation company. So where the fence installation company is the first client of the digital marketing agency, and the fence installation company is a national brand. And so we can have an opportunity to market to 120 other offices. And so with the data, right, like who's looking for fence installation? We're finding there's a lot of different vendors. You know, there's AudienceLab, which you guys are great. There's AudienceMap, there's Relevant, there's Pearl Driver. And so my question is like, I just want to get educated about where the data is coming from. Like, is everyone just wrapping Bombara and it's all Bombara data? Or is there something like, how does, you know, in a very simple sense,
I can't say how
someone
everybody.
goes to a,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't know you weren't done. My bad.
oh yeah. So just in a very simple sense, like if somebody goes to a fence website and I'm able to track that they went to my competitor's website, like how is that possible?
I think you're asking a couple of different questions there. I don't know how I can track what's going on your competitor's website ever. We don't guarantee that we can do that. People ask me if you can do that with the Pixel. Yeah, if you have access to the main domain and you are an admin on it, you can resolve their traffic. Outside of that, there's no way to fully understand your competitor's traffic with our tool. In terms of the data and where it's gathered, I don't think we're all gathering the same. I'm almost sure, but I can't speak for every other data provider because I'm not on their board and I don't know exactly what they're doing. I can't speak as to how we're doing it. We paid quite a hefty licensing fee to kind of sit at a table with the big data conglomerate, for lack of a better phrase. There's about 11 companies that are sharing almost all the data in the world, being Google, Bing, Apollo, Yahoo. I could go on and on. So we're basically at the same table with them, and we have shared user data interface. So all those big data companies, we have access to all their databases, and then we have our own internal process. So once these 11 streams from all these big providers come into our main database, then we're segmenting them by all the parameters you're seeing, by first name, by last name, by zip code, by VIN number, by every parameter we have, and that's all getting put into our backend algorithm between some AI stuff and actual backend coders and developers. Where the big difference is between data performance, to my understanding, number one, I know not all data companies have access to that same set at the table that we got for the price we did at the time we did, and I know since then it's kind of been shut off. So I don't think we're all getting it from the same place. One thing I know for damn sure is a lot of companies aren't putting as much effort to the back end of coagulating the data and segmenting it and then getting it out to the market while it's clean or accurate. Okay, so that's probably the biggest difference between us, Pearl Diver, I can go on and on, Apollo, Zoom Info, LiveRamp, Retention, 6 Sense. Like, I know my market. I know there's a lot of competitors. But in terms of historical accuracy and match rates, right now, not one of them is beating us in any of those areas. So historical accuracy, meaning when I pulled Jake Parks out of the AudienceLab Supergraph, number one, is it the right Jake Parks? Because I guarantee there's more than one of you in the US. And number two, when I do pull it, is his actual updated SMS number? Is it his accurate email? Do I have the right SHA-256 hash profile to hit back to his IP address? So all that stuff in terms of accuracy, all those companies aren't even close to where we're at right now when you look at accuracy. And then the second component is now that we've accumulated this data, this list, whatever, whether it's resolved identities, whether it's an in-market list, whether it's a custom list, doesn't matter. Now that we have this, we're going to match it into some type of marketing platform, right? Add your ad manager, your email autoresponder, your GHL, SMS outreach, whatever we're doing. What are the actual match rates that I'm hitting back to Jake Parks' Facebook feed when he's scrolling on the meta ads? What are the odds I'm hitting? What are the match rates I'm hitting back to Jake Parks' actual SMS inbox? So I can show you the numbers. I have a graph on it where we stand and where a lot of the competition stands, and we're 2 or 3xing those in a lot of those areas. So that, in my mind, is the biggest differentiator.
Okay, gotcha. So when Jake Parks, I go to a website, let's say I go to, phishing.com, and you guys are capturing 60 billion or 60 trillion signals, and you're getting all this data, and you're able to see, maybe or maybe not, that Jake Parks went to phishing.com and now he should be added to the phishing intent list. Like, is
What
that
we're able
kind of
to
how?
see, so what we're able to see, number one, if our super pixel was on that site, we definitely see. But what we're able to see, if you have identified off a competitor's super pixel, they're instantly putting you in a retargeting ad, and we can see everybody else getting targeted in those ads based on certain keywords.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
So we can see right away when Jake Parks gets retargeted in an ad campaign. We don't necessarily know what website you visited, but we know the campaign you're getting retargeted, and we know the service provider that's reaching out. At that point, you can make a pretty good guesstimation of what services Jake Parks is looking for.
I see. Okay. So you can track the retargeting campaigns, but not necessarily the website visits.
Correct.
Can you
Correct.
can you
Okay.
explain that? Can you explain that? Sorry, Raymond, in 30 seconds. Can you explain that?
Can I re-explain it or explain it more? Do you want me to restate it or go into more depth?
Like the difference between you don't know if I visit your competitor's website, but something with keywords.
So basically, once they target you in a retargeting campaign, again, let's say it was a fence installation company, and then they retargeted you. Now that you've been hitting that retargeting campaign, when I go into the AudienceLab super graph and that data gets updated, and I type in people looking for fence installation, Jake Park's name is now going to be in there because he was just retargeted in those type of ads. So he gets added to our keyword search once he's been targeted in those type of ads.
So you can deduct that most likely I was first visiting his website and therefore I'm interested in his services.
I can tell that Jake Parks has been retargeted for fence installation services. I don't necessarily know from what initial website, but yeah, I can usually tell by the company running the ads what website he visited. I can't be 100% sure. I really don't care what website they visited. I just know he's looking for a fence installation. That's what I care about.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Gotcha. Thank you.
What website he originated from, it really makes no freaking difference to me, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you.
But if I really wanted, I could probably track that. I just don't really see the relevance personally.
Unless you go super in detail, like if you would know that someone booked a call with your competitor, then that would be super useful. But like, unless you get there. But yeah, thank you very much. That was useful.
No problem. And your last point in the chat there, isn't relevant same as AudienceLab? No, it's not. It's not the same data. It's not the same company, and it's not the same data accuracy and match rates. That question I can answer just plain and simple. I don't have to elaborate. It's a nice one. Now, guys, on that, with 3 minutes left in the workshop, we'll close for this week. Thank you guys for the interaction, the questions. Again, Mark, I'll get with my team very shortly and make sure you receive all that information. I make sure I get the replay to the automation workshop for you guys. And what Eduardo asked me about, putting together some Q&A lists that are more for you guys to prepare resources for clients about the main questions you'll get asked about the pixels and the audiences. So I will get to work on all that stuff for you guys. And I will have this replay also uploaded in the school community.